This video is about finding the least common multiple, and this is lesson 57 in your book. Now it's really important that you don't get least common multiple mixed up with greatest common factor. Factors are smaller than the numbers that we are given. Multiples are typically either equal to or larger than the numbers that we're given. So if you think factors of 6 are 2 and 3, but multiples of 6 would be 6, 12, 18, 20, 24, etc. When we find the least common multiple, we write each number as a product of prime factors. So we factor them out, just like when we're finding the GCF. And we want to use every factor of the given numbers as a factor of the LCM. So if it's a factor, even just once in any of the given numbers, it's part of the least common multiple. We'll use each factor the greatest number of times it is a factor of any of the numbers or expressions. Now let's look at how this is going to work. So here's an example that needs to be in your notebook. We want to find the least common multiple of 24 and 36. Now to do this, we're going to write 24 and 36 as a product of prime numbers. So we're going to draw little factor trees. 24 is 2 times 12. 12 is 2 times 6, and 6 is 2 times 3. So 24 would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Then we're going to write 36 as a product of prime factors, so that's 2 times 18. 18 is 2 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So it'll be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Now we're going to use every number here that is a factor in our LCM. So the only numbers that I have in this factor set are 2 and 3. They're both going to be used in my least common multiple. And I'm going to use them the most number of times. Now that doesn't mean the total number of times, like I'm not going to use 2 5 times and 3 3 times. I'm going to use it the greatest number of times. So in this number, 2 is used 3 times. In this number, 2 is used 2 times. So since it's used the most in this one, and that's 3 times, I'm going to use 2 3 times, or I'm going to take 2 to the third power. Now for my 3's, in this first number I use 3 1 time. In the second number I use 3 2 times. 2 times is the most, so I'm going to use it 2 times. So my least common multiple of 24 and 36 is 2 to the third times 3 squared. Now 2 to the third is 8, and 3 squared is 9, which makes my least common multiple 72. Here's another example. Let's try it again. We're going to find the least common multiple of 11, 12, and 18. So we're going to factor out each one of these. Now 11 is a prime number, so the only factor of 11 is 11. For 12, we've got 2 times 6, and for 6, we've got 2 times 3. So 12 would be 2 times 2 times 3. For 18, we have 2 times 9, and 9 is 3 times 3. So for 18, we have 2 times 3 times 3. Now we're going to use all of these, each of these numbers. So in this set of factors, I have an 11. I'm definitely going to have to use that. I have a 2. I'm going to have to use that. And I have a 3. So I'm going to have to use that also. Now for my 11s, the only time I use 11 is 1. So 11 is going to be to the first power. For my 2's, I use 2 of them here and 1 of them here. So 2 is the most, so my exponent's going to be 2. And then for my 3's, I use 1 for this number and 2 for this number. Since 2 is the most, 2 is the exponent on my 3's. And when I simplify this, I have 11 times 4 times 9, which would give me 4 times 99, which is 396. Now, with that last example where we were looking for the LCM of 24 and 36, it might have been easy enough to just figure out what the multiples of 24 and 36 were and see what they had in common. But for this one, 11, 12, and 18, you would have had to write out multiples for 11, 12, and 18, all the way up almost to 400, and it would have taken a lot longer. Now we do the same thing for the least common multiple of algebraic expressions. We write each expression as a product of prime factors and factors with an exponent of 1, and we use every factor of the given number as a factor of the LCM, same as before, and we use each factor the greatest number of times. Now the only difference with an algebraic expression is that we have letters too. Here we're going to find the least common multiple of these two monomials, 10a squared c to the fourth and 15a to the third c to the third. So we're going to write each one as a product of prime factors. We'll start with 10a squared c to the fourth. 10 is 2 times 5, and then times a, that's a squared, and then c to the fourth would be 4 c's. 15a to the third c to the third would be 3 times 5, and then we'd have 3 a's and 3 c's. Now we look at all these factors that we have here, and we're going to have to use each one of them. So I'm going to have a 2 in my least common multiple. I'm going to have a 3 in my least common multiple. I'm going to have a 5. I'm going to have an A, and I'm going to have a C. Now to figure out the exponents on each of these factors, I look at the most times that they're used. So 2 is used once in this term and 0 times in this term. Since once is the most, 1 is my exponent. 3 is used once in this term and 0 times in this term. So since once is the most, I get a 1 on the 3 there too. 5 is used once in this one and once in this one. Once is the most, so exponent 1 here. A is used 2 times in the first one, 3 times in the second one. Since 3 is the most, I'm going to use it 3 times. And C is used 4 times in this one and 3 times in this one. Since 4 is the most, my exponent on C will be 4. And then I simply simplify this. So I have 2 times 3, which is 6, times 5, which is 30, a to the third, c to the fourth. And this is my least common multiple. All right, now let's try another one. We want to find the LCM of these 3 monomials. Now we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to write each as a product of prime factors. 6 is 2 times 3, and then we have p times s times s times s. For 2m squared s squared, we've got 2 times m times s times s. And for 8m to the third p, we've got 2 times 2 times 2, and then 3 m's, and then a p. All right, so we're going to look at all the factors we've got. Looks like we've got some 2's, so that's going to be part of our LCM. Looks like we've got 3, so that's going to be part of our LCM. We have m's and p's and s's. So first we'll start with our 2's. 2 is used once here, and 3 times here. Since 3 times is the most, we're going to use it 3 times. 3 is used once here, 0 times here, and 0 times here. Since once is the most, we'll use it once. M is used 0 times here, twice here, and 3 times here. 3 is the most, so we'll use 3. P is used twice in the first one, 0 times in the second one, and once in the third. Since twice is the most, we'll use 2 of them. And S is used 3 in the first term, 2 in the second, and 0 in the third. Since 3 is the most, we will use 3. Now we simplify this. 2 to the third is 8, and 8 times 3 is 24. And then we have m to the third, p squared, s to the third. And that is our least common multiple. Now we're going to find the least common multiple of polynomials. Now, in order to find the least common multiple of polynomials, we have to factor those polynomials. So we're going to find the greatest common factor of each of these polynomials, and then we are going to find the least common multiple. Now, if we're going to find the greatest common factor of 3x plus 1, we would write it as a product of prime factors and circle what they have in common. Now, notice they have no factors in common. So the only factor of 3x plus 1 is 3x plus 1. For 2x plus 9, notice when we write it out, 2x plus 3 times 3, it has nothing in common again. So there's no greatest common factor. The only factor of 2x plus 9 is 2x plus 9. So the factors of 3x plus 1 are 3x plus 1, so we have to use that in our least common multiple. And the factors of 2x plus 9 are just 2x plus 9, so we also have to use that in our least common multiple. And that makes 3x plus 1 times 2x plus 9 the least common multiple for these polynomials. Let's try another one of these. Now this one's going to be a little different because we are going to have a greatest common factor. First we'll factor out 7x squared plus 21x. Now 7x squared is 7 times x, plus, and then 21x is 7 times 3 times x. So they have a 7 in common, and they have an x in common, so we'll write 7x. And what's left over is x plus 3, so that's what goes in my parentheses. For 6x plus 18, 6x would be 2 times 3 times x, and 18 would be 2 times 3 times 3. They have a 2 and a 3 in common, so their greatest common factor would be 2 times 3, and in parentheses we'd have x plus 3. Now that we've factored out each polynomial, we're going to look at all the factors of the polynomial, and we're going to find the least common multiple. Now, just like we did when it was just the numbers, we have to use every factor in our least common multiple. So it looks like 7 is a factor of this first one, so 7 will have to be in our least common multiple. X is a factor of the first one, so x will have to be in our least common multiple. And x plus 3 is a factor, so that will have to be in our least common multiple also. Remember that a factor can be a polynomial. And the second one, 2 is a factor, so 2 will have to be included in our least common multiple. 3 is a factor, so we're going to have to include 3. And then x plus 3 is also a factor, so we're going to have to include that one, and that's already in there. Now we're going to have to use them the greatest number of times. So 7 is used once in this first polynomial and 0 times in the second. So since once is the most, we'll use 7 one time. X is used once in the first polynomial and 0 times in this one. So since once is the most, we will use x one time. X plus 3 is used once in the first polynomial and once in the second polynomial. So since once is the most, we'll use it once. 2 is used once, and 3 is also used once. Now once we simplify this, it will give us our least common multiple. So I'm going to take 7 times 3, which is 21, and then times 2 will give me 42. And then I have x times x plus 3. And this is my least common multiple. Now we might not have time to finish this very last one, so it's something that you may have to finish in your notebook on your own. We want to find the least common multiple of 60x cubed and 24x, plus 24x, and 45x to the fourth plus 18x squared. So we'll start by finding the factors. So 60 would be 2 times 3 times 5, and then we'd have x cubed, so that's 3 x's. 24 would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, and then just 1x. They have a 2 and a 2 and a 3 and an x in common. So that would be 2 times 3, 3 times x, and then in parentheses, 5x squared plus 2. And then 45x to the fourth would be 3 times 5, and then 4 x's, plus 18 would be 2 times 3 times 3, and then 2 x's. Oops. They have those three things in common, 3 times 3 times x. All right, so this one, finish in your notebook on your own, and we will talk about it in class.